Yes, from our studios directly to your device. This is the Pastor at Yahoo. I am joined by the now unmuted Audrey. Good morning, Audrey.
Good morning.
Everybody, it's May 16th. We are doing a rapid, R-A-P-A-D, which stands for Read a Psalm a Day. This is Psalm Saturday. We happen to be in Psalm 54, and we're going to read it, and then we're going to give you the historical background, and then we're going to give you some devotional thoughts on it. How's that for a plan?
Thumbs up.
I'll let you do the reading. What version are you reading out of?
ESV.
I'm there as well. Let's go.
You want me to read the whole thing?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. O God, save me by your name, and vindicate me by your might. O God, hear my prayer. Give ear to the words of my mouth. For strangers have risen against me, ruthless men seek my life. They do not set God before themselves. Behold, God is my helper. The Lord is the upholder of my life. He will return the evil to my enemies. In your faithfulness, put an end to them. With a freewill offering, I will sacrifice to you. I will give thanks to your name, O Lord, for it is good. For he has delivered me from every trouble, and my eye has looked in triumph on my enemies.
And may the Lord bless the reading of his word. So, it's a short psalm, but we're going to give you the historical context because the verse 7, for he has delivered me from every trouble. Okay, David has been in trouble, but we're going to go back. And in my version at the top, it kind of gives a footnote telling you the context. To the choir master with stringed instruments, a maskil of David, when the Ziphites, who are the Ziphites? Well, they're the people that live in the town of Ziph, believe it or not. When the Ziphites went out and told Saul, is not David among us? Now, that would be in your Bible. I'm getting my phone. That would be in 1 Samuel 23. What's interesting is 1 Samuel 22 comes before 1 Samuel 23. Now, I know you would say that, but if you remember a couple days ago, my guest was my oldest son, Josh, and we were doing Psalm 52, and the context of Psalm 52 was 1 Samuel 22, one chapter before this. And it's all the same basic time in David's life. It's when he's been anointed as the new king, but the old king Saul doesn't like that David's going to become king, so he's always trying to kill him, chase him down. Saul's son Jonathan is friends with David and knows he's going to be the next king, so he's trying to help him. But it's David. We'll apply it to ourselves in a minute, because there's often that God speaks promises to us, but they don't seem to happen in our time frame. We'll get to that. So David is promised to be king, but instead he's running around the wilderness. In the last one, the Edomite dog betrayed him, and a bunch of people got killed. And in this one, after he saves the town of Keilah, I have a relative named Keilah after that city. Shout out to Keilah, who's also a YWAMer, by the way. Then he runs into this town of Ziph, and he's hiding out. And even Jonathan comes down and talks to him there and says, I know you're going to be the king. That's verse 17. You're going to be okay. My father won't find you. But then in verse 19, the Ziphites go narc to Saul and tell Saul that David's there. So David has to run again and flee again, and he finally ends up in the strongholds of En-Gedi. So there's your historical context on that. But the application, I'm going to ask Audrey this question. She did not prep for this. I'm just going to ask her this, see if she can answer it. Audrey, have there ever been times in your life where, like David, you've had these times with God and the prophet, or God has spoke to you, or there's been some prophetic word, or God has spoken to you from his word, but you had these promises of God. There's all these promises that David's going to be king and it's all going to be glorious and everything, but instead he's out running around trying to save his life, hiding in deserts and rocks and caves. Do you ever feel like that's going on in your life in any way?
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, like I know that God has spoken to me about different things, like that I'm going to be a missionary and whatnot. And now I'm like, when am I even going to do that now with the whole coronavirus? Like, how do I even know I'll be able to go out again? So that's very uncertain. But I'm just like, oh, wow.
Right. He called you to be to take his word to the nations.
Right.
But instead, like David, you're here in the desert, hiding in a cave, a house, right? Waiting for, like, what's up, God? What is going on? Where's your master plan?
Yeah.
And you were telling me when we prepped on this that the real answer and what you get out of Psalm is something basically that our only hope is God, right? Is that kind of the idea here of the Psalm?
Yeah, it is. Like, God is something he's been speaking to me is just continuing to have hope. Something he says over me is, stay hopeful, darling. Like, he always says that to me all the time. And I'm like, that's so good and personal. Like, I can't believe he would say that to me. So encouraging.
Another thing you got out of this is that it's okay to be honest with God. You talked about this a little bit with me. Kind of share some of your ideas on that.
Yeah. So I noticed, like, in a lot of the Psalms, David is always extremely honest with God, and sometimes it seems a little blasphemous in certain parts where he's like, kill down my enemies.
He's complaining and whining and demanding that God do things right.
Right. But it's like God, he wants to hear that stuff from us. Like, he wants us to be real and open and raw and honest with him. And for a lot of my relationship with God, I didn't do that. I kind of just talked to the things about him, like about school, and I didn't really go into depth with God. But once I started,
just kind of a
actually
surface
level,
yeah.
But once I actually knew, like, God actually wants to hear that from me. He's not threatened if I am completely honest. Like, he's not surprised if I'm going to say that. I'm not going to scare him off. Once I knew that, I was able to be completely honest with him, and my relationship with him is so much more alive because he's more like one of my best friends, and I can come to him literally with anything, and he's not going to be like, well, I can't believe you said that. Like, bye. Like, peace out. I'm leaving. So I can have confidence knowing that the God of the universe, Yahweh, really wants to hear from me, and it's so incredible.
And that's kind of highlighted in verse 4 here. Notice, in the middle of all the bad stuff that's happening, he says, behold. He's almost like he's telling himself, behold, God is my helper. The Lord is the upholder of my life. He's going to be the one that sustains me. So even though I'm complaining about all this, I'm reminded that my hope is in God. So I'm going to turn to him. I'm going to be honest with him. I'm going to pour out my heart to him. And Pam and I were talking about this a little bit. It's kind of like Shadrach and Benny in front of the fiery furnace. Their basic, if you take a sermon out of that, is basically saying, God is my deliverer, and I believe he's going to deliver me from this fire. And God did in that instance. He miraculously, but what they were really saying, because they could, even if he doesn't, we're not going to bow. So whatever troubles you have, God's going to deliver you. He's either going to take you through the troubles and help you endure them. He's going to take them away miraculously, or they're going to kill you. You're right. Everybody dies, but you're still being delivered to the very presence of God. So when you say God's going to be my deliverer, it's true. It might seem kind of Pollyanna Christianity, but we can't lose, because God's going to either take us through, take them away, or take us to him. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's another reason why I like this psalm now that I'm thinking about it, because at first I was like, oh, I'm not getting anything out of this. But now that I'm talking about it, I realize, like, in the midst of David pouring out his heart to God and saying, this is a really awful situation, save me, he's saying, but God is my helper. He is the upholder of my life. He is faithful. He is good. He's declaring the character of God out loud to himself, or writing it down, or whatever he was doing. And that's so important. And we have, personally for me, that's what helps me each day, is if I'm feeling discouraged or if I'm feeling extra on edge, I just have to declare the characteristics of God over and over in my mind and out loud, and it totally changes my focus to myself and onto Jesus instead.
Which is why, besides just asking everybody to get in the family habit of reading the Bible out loud together, maybe using this daily psalm as a starting point, but reading the scripture out loud as a family and praying out loud as a family. One of the things that we also encouraged and are practicing ourselves is we're keeping a journal of something, either answered prayers or what we're thankful for. And so Pam and I have this chart of every day we both list something we're thankful for in the world and something we're thankful for about each other. And what that does, reciting what we're thankful for, it's kind of like verse 7. For he has delivered me from every trouble, and my eye has looked in triumph on my enemies. We can go back, and anytime we want, and Pam does it a lot because she's high affirmation. She can go back and see all these things that I have spoken over her that I'm thankful for about her, and it blesses her. And so at the same time, we can also go back as a family and see all the time God has heard and answered our prayers, and it builds our faith for what's coming up. Because right now, we don't know what's happening in the next few weeks or few months or few years, but we do know what God has already done for us.
Right. And I believe once this season passes, we're going to be like, wow, this is just another story of how you're faithful to us. This is just another example of your faithfulness, and it's just going to keep adding and adding up.
First Audrey chapter 2. Right? Another book in the Bible. There you go. All right. Thanks for joining me today. This has been Rapid Read a Psalm a Day, Psalm 54, May 16th, with Pastor Stephen Audrey. Tomorrow is our full church service, so join us at 11 online. God bless. Bye.